Let's try that again. Hey, everybody. How you doing? Welcome back to another live watch-along here on the Chronicles of a Gooner YouTube channel. We're going to be bringing you full coverage of Arsenal versus, of course, Tottenham Hotspur. What do we think about the idea of a North London derby being played, A, in pre-season and B, on the other side of the world? Well, let's get into that first, because I feel like I've got some points I need to make here that I need to kind of get off of my chest. So first of all, the idea of a North London derby being played in pre-season, I don't really like it. And the reason I don't like it is because all of a sudden a game that should be about fitness and getting up to speed has a bit of jeopardy to it. Now, people will say, well, there shouldn't be any jeopardy to it. It's a pre-season friendly. Nobody really cares. But you never want to lose to that lot, do you? Like, under any circumstances, you just don't. I certainly don't. So, it adds a little bit of, as I say, nervousness to a game that ordinarily should bring none and should only bring really excitement about the fact that we're going to get to see some more of our new players, hopefully in action at some point over the course of the 90 minutes that's to come. So, yeah, let's see how it's going to go. But not a massive fan of playing them in pre-season. As for it being played on the other side of the world, I'm fine with that, because there's a lot of supporters out in that part of the world that follow the Arsenal religiously, that wake up at ungodly hours every single week to watch the Gunners, that, make just as much effort as we do here in the UK, if not more. And from time to time, I'd imagine it's really, really nice for them to have the team, playing in front of them, to have the team there in the flesh. So, for those guys, it's a big occasion. And obviously the fact that it is a North London derby, despite it being a pre-season friendly, it does give that little bit extra, which I think for them, obviously increases the appeal of it all. So yeah, look, that's the upside of it, right? Big thank you to everybody who is joining us on this stream. Really, really do appreciate it. We had unbelievable support on the last couple of streams that we did. So a massive thank you to everybody who was, of course, with us during those. I really, really do appreciate the love and the support, and it's been amazing to see the response. We're not normally a watch-along channel, but during pre-season, when I'm able to, I figured it's worth doing so. It's worth doing so. I've turned the crowd noise down a little bit for those of you, just making the point that it's a little bit off-putting in the live chat. I mean, I think it adds a bit of ambience to it, but whatever the people want is what the people are going to get. I've just turned it down a notch. Let me know if that is a little bit better. Okay, should we talk about team news? Because, of course, the team news is out now. Arsenal line up with, of course, their first choice goalkeeper, David Raya, in between the sticks. The back four is made up of Ben White, William Saliba, Jakub Kiwior, and Miles Lewis-Skelly. The team is going to run across the bottom of your screens now. So have a quick look at that if you're, of course, wanting to read it. Miles Lewis-Skelly at left back, as I mentioned. And then you move into the midfield, and the midfield's made up of Cristhian Mosquera, Declan Rice, and Martin Odegaard. Saka, Martinelli, and Havertz are the front three. On the substitutes bench for Arsenal today, Tommy Setford, Rojas. You'll notice there's no Kepa Arrizabalaga. He's picked up a problem in training. Not sure of the severity or what exactly that problem is, but he's not in the squad today. Nichols, Salmon, Mosquera are on the bench. Zinchenko, Zubimendi, Lokonga, Copley, Marino, Dalman, Waneri, Cabia, Nelson, Trossard, Harriman, Anus, and the man everybody's tuned in to see, Viktor Gyökeres. He is on the substitutes bench. How much of a part will he play today? That remains unclear. We'll have to wait and see. But he is in the squad. I'd imagine he's going to get on at some point just to kind of give the crowd what they want. We're about 13 minutes out from kickoff. Mikel Arteta is giving an interview. Is this an interview from today, or is it an interview from after the Newcastle match? I think I can see a Newcastle logo in the background there, so it might be a replay of an interview from there. I am watching the game on Arsenal.com. Arsenal.com have a live stream. You do need to buy access to the live stream. I've talked about it on all of the watch-alongs so far. I don't think that should be the case. That's my personal opinion. I think especially as paying members at whatever level, I think you should get this for free. But we don't, so you got to buy it if you're interested in it. I do know that for some of our listeners overseas, You can find it on some of the Australian and American TV channels. I think the previous games in America were on CBS, and in Australia were on Astro, I want to say. And there'll be, look, there's a website called ljsliveonsat.com. If you search that website and you pick the game that you want to watch, it gives you a breakdown of all the channels that are showing it in which different territories and countries. So go over and have a look at that if you're looking for somewhere to watch the game. We're not going to be streaming the game, obviously, for copyright reasons, but we will bring you a slightly loose play-by-play commentary of how it goes at the Kai Tak Stadium in Hong Kong, and we'll be having conversations, relevant conversations, of course, throughout the duration of the stream as well. If you are with us on X, hello, good to see you all. We don't always stream on X, so if you're interested in coming over to the Chronicles of a Gooner YouTube channel and giving us a subscribe, giving us a follow, a like, etc., we'd be delighted to have you. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, I don't want to keep saying it during the stream, so leave a like on the video if you haven't done so already. You know what you're going to get if you've been here before, and make sure that you're subscribed as we slowly crawl towards the next benchmark, which is 45,000 subscribers on YouTube. Hopefully we'll get there sooner rather than later. A bit of concern I can see in the chat box about the injury list. There's no Gabriel, there's no Calafiori. Feels like Jakub Kiwior at the moment is the most likely to start at left centre-back for Arsenal when the season kicks off at Old Trafford for us on August the 17th. And you know what? I'm absolutely fine with that. We went to the Bernabeu with Kiwior playing at centre-back, and he was brilliant. We played against PSG over the two legs with Kiwior at centre-back, and he was really, really good. He certainly wasn't the reason that we fell short. I thought he really kind of stepped up at the back end of last season. And even if Ricardo Calafiori was fit, it's my preference that Kiwior plays at centre-back alongside Saliba than Calafiori does. I love what Calafiori brings in a lot of ways, right? But the only issue I have with Calafiori is that he lacks discipline at times. He goes roaming, he goes chasing all over the place. He goes and makes forward runs at times where maybe it's not the smartest thing to do from a defensive standpoint. And as a centre-back, it's got to be defence first and foremost. Do I enjoy the chaos at times? Do I enjoy unpredictability? Yeah, of course I do. Of course I do. But at the same time, I think when you're playing at centre-back, you have to wind it in a little bit. And I'm not going to judge him on the friendlies that we've seen so far, because those games don't have the same jeopardy, right? You're not going to be as disciplined as you might be in a Premier League situation or another situation. But yeah, I worry a little bit about Calafiori as a centre-back. As a left-back, fine. You can cover it. You can kind of get away with it, can't you? But not as the centre-back. So I would prefer, even if everyone was fit, barring Gabriel, that Calafiori played anyway. I mentioned Kepa's issue. A couple of people asking in the chat, what's the deal with Kepa Arrizabalaga? Don't know. Not sure what the issue is. Not sure of the severity of it. But I'm sure that'll be one of the first questions. Maybe not the first question, but one of the questions that is put to Mikel Arteta in the post-match press conference. Viktor Gyökeres is on the bench, which is great news, and he could feature at some point today. Mikel Arteta, when talking about the possibility of the Swede making his Arsenal debut today, did say that he was going to leave it to his medical staff to assess the player, to judge the player, and to figure out whether they felt he could take part or not. I think he probably will. As I say, give the fans what they want. Give him 10, 15 minutes at the end, 20 minutes at a push, and we'll all be pleased with that, because if we see one or two glimpses of what he's about, that'll be enough, won't it, to create a load of excitement. Why do I say that? Well, because yesterday on social media, and I got a little bit of stick for this from some fellow Arsenal supporters, I thought there was this huge overreaction to some of the training videos going around of Viktor Gyökeres. There was one video of him in training, right, getting the ball in the kind of inside left channel it would have been as he was attacking the goal. And he sort of shifts the ball out of his feet, opens up his boot, and bends it into the top corner. Fantastic finish, right? And people got excited by that, fine. But moments after that, there was another video uploaded of Ben White running down the right-hand side and crossing the ball into an empty penalty area where Viktor Gyökeres rose unchallenged and headed the ball into an empty net. And there were people going, and I know some people were being sarcastic about this. That hasn't gone over my head. I know some people were being sarcastic about it. Some people were being funny about it. But there was genuinely people out there going, oh my God, look how good he is in the air. And it's like, well, he's unchallenged. The goal is empty. I don't really think we should be getting too carried away by that. Now, I'm excited by the Viktor Gyökeres signing. Of course I am. But yeah, I'm not going to be jumping on the hype of training videos. But yeah, we expect to see him today at some point. Not sure how long for. Not sure where his fitness levels are at, because of course he was somebody who didn't join up with preseason training at the time he should have, because he was trying to push through and force through a move to Arsenal Football Club, which in the end materialized. So, I mean, he would argue that he was justified in doing that, but Arsenal need to get him up to speed from a fitness perspective. Now, the good thing is that going into the season, I know a lot of people were big on the striker thing, and there's a lot of people out there that don't believe that Kai Havertz is good enough to do that role for us. I suppose the positive is that Kai Havertz is there and he's around and can take on that role for now. We don't have to stress about Viktor Gyökeres being available for week 1. It'd be nice if he was, but obviously, there's no need to panic, because we've got Kai Havertz here, and we've got a player who's very, very capable and who's done a very good job for Arsenal in recent times in that position. So, yeah, not worried, not stressed about that in the slightest. We're almost ready to get underway. There's about 5 minutes to kick off. I suppose I should very quickly run you through the Tottenham Hotspur team. It's Guillermo Vicario in goal. Pedro Porro plays at right back. Romero and Van der Ven are the centre-backs. Jed Spence will play from left-back. Pape Matar and Rodrigo Bentancur are the midfield duo, with Bergvall playing just in behind Richarlison, with Odegaard and Kudus playing on either flank. Interesting to see what Tottenham are going to play like under Thomas Frank. I was at their pre-season game against Luton at the weekend. I was sent there to cover the game for radio. It was a dreadful game. It was a boring game. He did something very, very different, Thomas Frank. He sort of left half the squad at the training ground. They played a pre-season friendly in the morning against Wycombe Wanderers. And then the rest of the group took on Luton Town at a packed Kenilworth Road, by the way, I have to say, and played out the most boring of 0-0 draws. Now, would I read into that too much? No. But I think we're going into today's game in much better shape. Just looking at the pictures coming out of I think it's called the Kai Tak Stadium in Hong Kong, the Hong Kong Football Festival. The Herbology Trophy, is that what they're calling this thing? Between Arsenal and Tottenham Hotspur, the two sets of players in the tunnel and slowly making their way out onto the field of play. The Herbology Trophy. It's probably some brand out in that part of the world that I'm not aware of. But the stadium looks good. Looks like there's a healthy crowd as well, as you'd imagine for a game like this. The pyro's out, the press are in their packs with their photo positions being sort of fought for as the two sets of players come out of the tunnel and line up in front of the main stand here. Arsenal, of course, wearing red shirts, white sleeves, white shorts and red socks. Tottenham Hotspur in their white shirts with navy shorts and, of course, white socks. This is going to be fun, I think. I hope. Camera just panning down the two sets of players at the moment. Tottenham Hotspur hoping not to suffer a defeat to the Arsenal, whereas we'd quite like to stick it to them, won't we? We enjoy that, don't we? It's been a thing over the years. Anyway, almost ready to get underway. Remember, if you're watching us via X at the moment, feel free to come over to the Chronicles of Aguna YouTube channel. Give us a subscribe. That way you get access to all of our content and you can check out the show, of course, on Apple, Spotify, and all the usual places. Let's run you through the two teams once again. For Arsenal, it is Raya in goal. White, Saliba, Kivior, and Lewis Skelly make up the back line. Norgard starts in the heart of the Arsenal midfield with Rice and Odegaard alongside him. Saka and Martinelli will play in the two wide positions with Kai Havertz leading the line. But on the bench for Arsenal today is that man, Viktor Gyökeres. Viktor Gyökeres is in the Arsenal squad for the first time, and we can't wait to see him. We cannot wait to see him. The toss is taking place in the middle of the pitch right now. The referee in conversation with Martin Odegaard and, of course, Tottenham captain Cristhian Mosquera. They'll all pose for a photo, I think. Let's quickly run you through the Tottenham team. Vicario in goal. Porro, Romero, Van der Ven and Spence are the back line. Bergvall, Sarr and Bentancur are the midfield with Odegaard, Richarlison and Kudus in attack. Thomas Frank, of course, hoping to produce the kind of result that I think would sort of help him in terms of building that relationship with the Tottenham Hotspur supporters. He's been desperate, hasn't he, in his sort of press conferences to make sure that he highlights the rivalry between the two sides. He didn't really do a great job of that at the beginning when he started talking about how good a team Arsenal were. He felt like he had to add a little extra line on the end of it just to satisfy those of a Tottenham persuasion. I think he said in the end, Arsenal were one of the best teams in the world, and then had to add, unfortunately, onto the end of it. Now, bit of a shame for me because I've always liked Thomas Frank, and now by default I feel like I have to kind of dislike him a little bit. We're almost ready to get underway. Both sets of players taking up their positions. I'm not sure about the numbers on the back of that Spurs kit. They're a bit all over the place. But there's their new signing, Mohamed Kudus, joined from West Ham in the summer. Arsenal goalkeeper David Raya just limbering up on the edge of his penalty area. We're about to kick off. It's going to be Tottenham, I think, to get us underway. Lots of white flags, to be fair. Plenty of Tottenham Hotspur supporters in attendance. Almost certain that the Arsenal fans will outnumber them, but there is a fair chunk of them away to the right-hand side as we look at the screen. I'd love a zoomed-out shot here so I can tell you who's about to kick us off, but we haven't had it yet. There's a countdown on the screen. This is so pre-season friendly, isn't it? There we go. We are underway in Hong Kong between Arsenal and Tottenham Hotspur, and it's the Gunners with an early attack. Tottenham Hotspur managed to win possession back and have it now at right full-back. Someone saying in the chat, let's watch the game, not you, man. You don't have to watch me. You can watch the game. Go and find it and watch it. We are bringing this to our listeners that unfortunately maybe can't watch the game or at work, can't be fully focused on it. Not seeking to replace the game. No one would prefer to watch me. Here's Havertz, edge of the box, finds Martin Odegaard. Odegaard's left foot shot took a deflection on its way, and that'll be an Arsenal corner nice and early on. 37 seconds in here, and Arsenal have themselves their first corner kick of the game. Just seemed to open up for the Gunners initially, and when the ball was worked back to Martin Odegaard on the edge of the box, he took the touch, shaped his body up in order to take on the shot, and it just took a deflection on its way, which sent it behind for an Arsenal corner. Tottenham hate defending our corners, don't they? That's what recent history tells us. Bukayo Saka to deliver this corner kick from Arsenal's right-hand side. The England man will whip this in left-footed. Raises the right arm. There's Bukayo Saka. It's a signal. Into the box it goes towards the far post, but there were three Tottenham defenders there to deal with it. And then Gyökeres challenges by heading it up into the air after a couple of bounces. Jed Spence will volley it away, and it's retrieved on around about halfway by Gabriel Martinelli, who just rolls it back to David Raya. He'll send a chipped ball out towards the right flank where Kai Havertz was situated. Tottenham clear as far as just shy of the halfway line, where Ben White brings it under control and then draws a foul out of Wilson Odegaard to win Arsenal free kick. They've taken it quickly. Odegaard down the right-hand side, finds Bukayo Saka to the right-hand side. Infield to Norgard. Back out to the right-hand side for Ben White. Back infield it goes. Here's William Saliba. Short pass to Cristhian Mosquera, and then the Arsenal centre-half gets it back. Tottenham have everybody at the moment camped behind the ball. Odegaard's ball inside, picked up by Gyökeres in the side. That left centre-back from the start today. Calafiori and Gabriel both out injured. Rice goes charging down the right-hand side. Dispossessed, though, by Pape Matar. Scored a couple of goals at the weekend for Spurs in their training ground friendly against Wickham. Here's Odegaard with a clip ball over to the right. Saka picks it up just to the right of the penalty area. Bukayo Saka gets to the line, right-footed cross. Closed down by Jed Spence. It's a second Arsenal corner. Mikel Arteta in conversation with Albert Stuyvenberg, already AirPod Albert, as he's affectionately known in Arsenal circles. Tottenham brace themselves for another Arsenal set piece. And they're taking this in front of the large section of Tottenham fans. Just behind that goal, Saka puts it into the box again. Tottenham clear, this time to Odegaard, volleys it into the ground, and then it's helped towards goal, I think, by William Saliba, but it just went wide. I don't know if there was an offside there at all, but Odegaard's frustrated with himself. He feels he ought to have done better. Ball broke to Odegaard just inside the box. It was kind of awkward in terms of the way he had to adjust his body. Volleyed it down into the ground. And then Saliba, who was in an offside position, I think, just tried to glance it into that far corner. Couldn't quite do so. And so it goes wide. But Spurs will get the free kick for the offside. It's been a lively start from Arsenal, you know. Really, really lively. But they've got some defending to do here now as Tottenham come down the right. Here's Mohamed Kudus. Whipped into the box by Porro, and Raya will catch it on the edge of his 6-yard box. Comfortable gather, and he just rolls it short to Cristhian Mosquera for Arsenal. Counter-attack felt like it was on. Mosquera maybe just held onto the ball slightly too long in that instance. He then finds Lewis Skelly on the left, who plays it back in field to Kivior. And now it's with Saliba for Arsenal inside the centre circle. And the Gunners will build again. 4.5 minutes gone. Lewis Skelly on the left. Kivior supporting him. Left-footed, just strokes it inside to Saliba. Chips it out to the right wing. Saka will take it down on the chest. Odegaard is in the half space. Saka will cut it back to Ben White, who's joined in with the attack. Square ball to Saliba. Back out to Odegaard. Ben White making the overlap. Gets it from Odegaard. Right-footed cross towards the edge of the penalty area. Lewis Skelly looking to nod it on, but that header will just be allowed to run out of play calmly by Pedro Porro, and it will go behind for a Tottenham goal kick. Thank you to everybody who is joining us. We've got people joining us from all over the world, which is just amazing. Michael is with us from Kentucky. We've got Dee joining us from Mykonos. Raphael, I think, is in Singapore, if I'm not mistaken. Lots and lots of you joining us from all corners of the earth, which is amazing. Thank you so much for the support. Be sure to leave a like on the video if you're watching us on YouTube. It really, really does help. Subscribe to the channel as well if you're new, as we seek to hit that next milestone here on YouTube of 45,000 subscribers. We've got listeners from Ireland. We've got Stephen, who says he's turned the TV comms off to listen. Thank you so much. We've got A. Chatterton from New Zealand. We've got Jamaica in there as well. As Saliba sends a long ball forward out to the right-hand side. Saka would chase it. He won't quite get there ahead of Jed Spence, who did well to hold off Saka. But the thing with Jed Spence, right, is he's playing at left-back. And whenever he gets on the ball, he wants to work it onto that right foot, doesn't he, as early as possible. And that makes it just that little bit more difficult for him to kind of escape from those types of situations where he's being pressed. He did well to win Spurs a throw in there. Bergvall challenges. Norgard wins it from him, and then Norgard heads it forward into Odegaard, about 5 yards from the edge of the box, back to the Tottenham goal, but it ends up being forced back to halfway line. Here is Miles Lewis Skelly. Now it's with Martinelli on that left-hand side. And the ball ends up back at the feet of David Raya in the Arsenal goal. He'll send it long. Arsenal on the attack. Martinelli works it inside. Rice into Havertz. Havertz is inside the box. Can he make room for the shot? He managed to get a really tame effort off in the end. He thought he was fouled. I'll tell you what, I thought he was fouled there as well, Kai Havertz. Martinelli on the turn. Rice into Havertz. It was an awkward ball to control. But as Havertz went to unleash the shot with his left foot, I felt he was caught by Romero. The flag is up though, so is that why that's not resulted in an Arsenal penalty? I think it was, because Tottenham have been given a free kick. So the offside offence must have occurred quite a bit earlier. Vargan says, I don't like a derby match in pre-season. What do you think? Yeah, we discussed this pre-match. I'm not a fan of these either. We've got listeners from South Africa, Portugal, Wales. Thank you so much. Melbourne in Australia as well. Here come Tottenham, midway inside the Arsenal half at the moment, looking to make something happen. Here's Wilson Odobert, left-footed ball into the Arsenal penalty area, blocked at the near post, and then Ben White just using his body strength to make sure that Tottenham progressed no more. They do concede a corner though, Arsenal, that they'll have to defend now. David Raya just taking up position in the goal mouth, organising his defenders. I'm sure Nicholas Jover is out there somewhere pointing and shouting and directing people. As Pedro Porro, with his bleached hair, not sure about that, Pedro, places the ball down and is ready to deliver this Tottenham Hotspur corner 9 minutes in. Pedro Porro's ball for Tottenham Hotspur in towards the near post area. Oh, it's come off the far post. Somehow it bounced on its way through. David Raya beaten all ends up. Arsenal didn't even have anybody defending on the far post, which would have been a basic back in my playing days. That's what I would say. But Arsenal living very, very dangerously there. Porro's ball had such whip on it. It bounced right in the middle of the goal, in the middle of the 6-yard box. Nobody was anywhere near it. And it comes crashing off of David Raya's left-hand post. And when it fell to Richarlison, he couldn't convert it. Thomas Frank was desperate to see that hit the back of the net. Just look at his reaction. Kept saying it before kickoff. You know, yes, it's a pre-season friendly, but against this lot, it can't be, can it? They want it. They're desperate for it. So are we to a degree as well. Donovan with some advice in the live chat for our American listeners with regards to how you can watch the game if you want to do so. As I said, I'm not trying to stop people watching the game. You can join me for play-by-play commentary and analysis in addition to watching the game, or if you're at work and you can't watch the game or whatever, because I know this is an awkward time for a lot of people. We're here to make sure that you get through every single minute of it and know what's going on at all times. Here's Romero just inside the Arsenal half. Square ball to Van der Ven. Takes a touch left-footed and then plays it to Jed Spence, the Tottenham left-back, who sends a ball in behind Ben White. Odobert turns on the burners and gets there. Keeps it in. On the byline is Wilson Odobert, cross-delivered into the box, deflected up and over and behind for a Tottenham corner by Ben White, who was back there defending. Just felt a little bit too easy for me, the way Tottenham were able to just, you know, ping a ball in behind the Arsenal fullback and get themselves into that kind of position. I know Odobert is rapid. We really did see it there. Really, really did see it there. It looked like the ball was running out of play. Pedro Porro to take this Tottenham Hotspur corner. 11.5 minutes in. Right-footed ball, again into a similar area, this time with a bit more height on it. And that allowed David Raya to come and gather comfortably. And then he looks to release the ball early, does so successfully. Declan Rice charging down the left-hand side for Arsenal, trying to shake off the challenge of Mohamed Kudus. In the end, I think Rice ran the ball out of play. Tottenham throwing on that far side, their right-hand side. Declan Rice with the first real opportunity to kind of stretch his legs in this one. I know that the players aren't completely up to speed. You know, why would they be? You know, we're still a few weeks out from the kickoff of the Premier League season, but you just get the feeling now, you know, third game in, and with 2 games to come at home to Villarreal next week, followed by that game on Saturday against Athletic Bilbao. It just feels like Arsenal are at the point now where they do need to step it up a little bit. The fitness levels do need to improve now. I know these players will be built up in a certain way, and in a way sort of planned brilliantly by the sports scientists and physios and medical staff. But you just want to see a little bit more, don't you? At least in spells, fitness-wise. Here's Miles Lewis-Skelly at left back for Arsenal, just inside his own half. Plays it back to Jakub Kiwior. Square pass to William Saliba. Back it goes to Kiwior. Takes a touch with the left foot and then plays it into the feet of Declan Rice, who's just drifted out to that left-hand side. Plays the ball into that inside channel for Lewis-Skelly. Oh, wonderful skill from Lewis-Skelly. And then he was dispossessed by, I think, Pape Matar, who on the stretch just managed to make a slide tackle and prevent Lewis-Skelly from accelerating away from him. That was really, really brilliant skill, though, from the Arsenal man to evade the first challenge that he sort of overcame. Here's Romero at centre-back for Spurs, into the midfield for Sarr. Now Porro down the line. Here's Kudus. Lewis-Skelly snapping away at his heels, but he manages to find Porro at right back successfully, and Tottenham have it now with the ball at the back as they look to chip it forward up towards Richarlison, who will chase his own flick on, but William Saliba comes across from right centre-back to left centre-back to just clean up there, and then Raya will send it out to the right-hand side, nice and early for Bukayo Saka, who brings it under control, but the flag on this near side is up against him. Offside. A couple of questions in the chat about the Spurs 11. I'll quickly run you through that once again. Vicario in goal, as we just see this replay. I think Saka was just about offside. Porro, Romero, Van de Ven and Spence at the back line. Sarr and Bentancur in the midfield, with Kudus, Bergvall and Odegaard playing in behind Richarlison. So pretty strong Tottenham 11, you'd argue. It's hard to say what the actual Tottenham starting 11 is, because Thomas Frank is such a different coach to Ange Postecoglou. You know, his preferred 11 might look completely different. Here come Tottenham down the right with Mohamed Kudus. He's got Porro on the overlap, uses him. Porro takes a touch, cuts it back to the corner of the box where Bentancur is joining in on the attack. Back to Porro on the right-hand side, and then he'll work it infield to Cristhian Mosquera. Arsenal get bodies back behind the ball and force Tottenham to just put their foot on it and slow the tempo down here. Here's Porro on the right-hand side for Spurs. Back to Romero. Into Bentancur. Had a little glance over his shoulder, decided not to try and turn, and instead just played it first time out to the right for Porro. Now he looks to combine Bentancur with Mohamed Kudus. Kudus on the right, looking to take on Lewis-Skelly. Martinelli's back there covering defensively as well, doubling up with Miles Lewis-Skelly on Mohamed Kudus, who can be a very, very tricky customer. He is at times a little bit patchy in his form, but he is no doubt a very, very tricky customer when he wants to be. Mikel Arteta doesn't look happy on the touchline. Looks pretty intense. Been saying it all along, haven't we? It might be a pre-season friendly on paper, but whenever these two meet, there's just that little bit more riding on it. Van de Ven out to the left. Odegaard into Bergvall. Now Spence up from left back. Back inside to Odegaard. Spins away nicely from Bukayo Saka. Makes his way into the Arsenal box. Still got it, Odegaard. Saliba just got a toe on the ball, which forced Odegaard wide. But Tottenham still have it. Spence inside to Bentancur now. Bentancur in possession again in a more central area. Finds Cristhian Mosquera, who's forward from centre-back, joining in with the attack. Now it's with Odegaard again on the left. Looks to combine with Bergvall. The pass from Bergvall back was just a little bit wayward. It sent him a little bit wider than he would have liked, and it's clipped into the Arsenal box by Bentancur towards Kudus, who was making a run in off that right-hand side, but he couldn't quite latch onto it. Bentancur apologises, signals with his arm what I think his intention was in terms of the angle of the pass. And Arsenal have themselves a goal kick, but after a really fast start from Arsenal, you just feel like Tottenham are just starting to wrestle back a little bit of the control. Here's Declan Rice inside the Tottenham penalty area, angle against him, and he tried to get the shot off. It was blocked and put behind by Pedro Porro. You can see by Declan Rice's expression that he felt he ought to have done better with that. It was really direct from the Gunners. Long ball from Raya, flicked on by Havertz, and then there was a touch from the Tottenham defender Romero, and as Rice brought it under control, he couldn't quite take it as nicely in his stride as I think he would have liked, and he did get the shot off left-footed, to be fair, but Porro was there to close the angle and concede the corner. A corner that Declan Rice himself is going to go over to take now from Arsenal's left-hand side. It's going to be a right-footed delivery. Taken short in the end by Rice to Martinelli. To the corner of the box it goes for Lewis Skelly. Back out to Rice. Back to Lewis Skelly again. Odegaard is just square of him. Here is Martin Odegaard, the Arsenal captain. Right-footed chip out to the right-hand side. Saliba receives it. Saliba will try and stand it up at the far post. But again, Arsenal caught offside. It's been a common theme in this first half. I think that's the third or fourth time now that Arsenal have been caught offside. William Saliba was, I think, marginally offside there. He was sort of playing on the right wing. As a result of his initial positioning from the corner kick, he had stayed forward. He found himself in a bit of space on the right-hand side. Odegaard tried to pick him out. Did so successfully, but unfortunately for Arsenal, the Frenchman had just made his move and his run a little bit too early. It's a long ball forward from Tottenham, just calmly chested back to David Raya by William Saliba. And then Raya just throws it over the top of Odegaard's head and finds Ben White. Ben White's pass to Norgard put Norgard... I beg your pardon, Havertz put Havertz in a bit of trouble. Havertz did win a free kick, though, out of Mickey van der Ven. Ben White wanted to continue, but the referee says no. It's incredible how much Kai Havertz has bulked up, isn't it? And I know that that doesn't change some of the sort of shortcomings that people believe exist in his game, but it's just remarkable the kind of physical transformation that he's gone through during that period of time that he was injured. Just incredible. Ben White gives that away to Odegaard. Just managed to get in front of Martin Odegaard there. He was the sharper of the two as they did battle for possession there. But Odegaard has it back now, just inside the Tottenham half for Arsenal. Plays it into the feet of Miles Lewis-Skelly, who's just come infield from that left-hand side. Finds Martinelli, looking to take on Pedro Porro. Goes to skip inside him and Kudus, but Kudus was the sharper of the three players involved in that particular duel and brings it away for Tottenham Hotspur. Still goalless in Hong Kong between Arsenal and Thomas Frank's side. Jed Spence has it at left full-back now for Spurs and just rolls it back to Vicario. Short ball to the left of the penalty area for Van der Ven. Spence down the line. Odegaard trying to make something of it, but Ben White comes out on top. Just stood his ground there, Ben White, more than anything else, and was able to win possession back for the Gunners. Here's William Saliba again. Lewis Skelly inside the centre circle. Now it's with Ben White, midway through the Tottenham half. He played the ball into a space he thought Bukayo Saka would be moving into. In the end, Saka sort of moved past it, and the move breaks down for Arsenal. Tottenham have it back. Van der Ven at the back for Spurs. Here he is again, the Dutchman. Spence at left back. Back to Van der Ven on the corner of his own box, being pressed by Martin Odegaard, and that forces him to go back to Guillermo Vicario, and then he sends a ball out to the right, which had too much pace on it for Pedro Porro. Tottenham looking to play their way over the Arsenal press at times. Thomas Frank will be wanting to implement a certain style of play. Maybe a style of play that he wasn't able really to kind of move towards at Brentford because perhaps he didn't feel he had the resources. At Tottenham he does. But what you can guarantee is that even if he does slightly change his philosophy, is that it'll be more pragmatic than Ange Postecoglou ever was. Here's Kai Havertz trying to wriggle free of Cristian Romero on the right-hand corner of the Tottenham box. He went down, Havertz, wanting a free kick, didn't get it, and Spurs look to come away with the ball, but that's a foul on Kudus, about 15 yards from the halfway line by Miles Lewis-Skelly. In a Premier League game, he might have picked up a yellow card for that, just because of how how cynical it was. Good skill from Kudus, good bit of trickery. We know he's got that in the locker. Was incredibly inconsistent at West Ham United last season. And Tottenham are on the attack here. Move breaks down and Norgard will send it forward. Havertz looking to close down Van der Ven. They go shoulder to shoulder and Van der Ven goes flying. That's the Kai Havertz bulking effect, isn't it? In full flow there. Just went shoulder to shoulder with Van der Ven. He was completely bumped off the ball. When you're a centre-half, you don't want that to be happening, do you? Nothing came of it for Arsenal in the end, but just a demonstration of Kai Bulverts, as Jakey puts it. Bulkverts, sorry. It's a clear demonstration of what he's done there. Adam says, Kai Havertz bulked up, but still getting bullied and looking for fouls. He didn't get bullied there. What are you talking about? What are you watching? He's not been bullied at all. Concern at the moment is that Miles Lewis-Skelly's down. Not sure what the problem is exactly, but the physio's just given a thumbs up towards the Arsenal bench. What does that mean? Does that mean he's fine, he's good, he's okay? Or does it mean, yeah, go ahead with your change? He seems to be sort of pressing on the shin area of Miles Lewis-Skelly. I don't think there's any sort of common muscle injury that you could have in that area, is there? Perhaps it's just impact. They're showing us a sort of a montage of the very few highlights so far. That Tottenham attack that we just sort of referenced a couple of minutes ago, we didn't actually see the lead up to it because the pictures were, or the broadcaster was still showing us a replay. But it looked like Mohamed Kudus had got into a fair bit of space down the right for Tottenham, and that Jakub Kiwior had come across and made a really important block at a crucial time as he was just preparing to get the shot off. Miles Lewis-Skelly's okay. He's been waved back onto the field of play. He's back involved. And there's a ball in behind Lewis-Skelly for Kudus to chase, but Raya will come right to the perimeter of his area to the left to pounce on that ball. And then he rolls it short to William Saliba as Arsenal look to build up from the back. The Gunners have had 4 shots so far. 4 attempts on target, it says on the screen. I'm not sure they've all been on target. Well, they might have been, but there were certainly some blocks there, wasn't there? That's why it doesn't feel like necessarily they were on target, but 4-1 in Arsenal's favour. Jakub Kiwior's pass out to the left-hand side didn't quite go as he would have liked. But he's really shown off his kind of passing range, hasn't he, in recent months? Really enjoyed watching him sort of grow in confidence and develop and show himself to be the player that Arsenal believed him to be when they went over to Italy and signed him from Spezia. It was a bit of a surprise shock signing, but you know, he's come good now, you have to say. Here's Jed Spence on the left-hand side. Now Bentancur at the base of the Tottenham midfield. Into Romero, the centre-back. Sends it out to the right wing for Kudus. He's got Pape Matar making a run beyond him. Kudus showing his trickery. Skipped away from Miles Lewis-Skelly there, but Miles Lewis-Skelly was supported by Gabriel Martinelli in that instance, and that presence of the Brazilian just meant that Kudus couldn't accelerate away and do any damage to Arsenal. Spence. Van der Ven will just roll it back to Vicario. Odegaard again on the press. Norgard stepping out from that 6th position and almost becoming a 10 in that instance. As Arsenal look to squeeze an error out of Tottenham Hotspur, they send it long. Kiwior heads it back towards his own goal. Should never really let it bounce, but he had to there. And then he tries to recover. And in the end, Richarlison comes out on top. Tottenham might have got a free kick, but the advantage was played. Odegaard from the left. Low shot, and it come off the foot of David Raya's left-hand post. Tottenham have hit the woodwork twice. Once from a corner where the ball was delivered in and bounced inside the 6-yard box before hitting the far post. And here you've seen Tottenham, through William Odegaard, hit the woodwork again. Did it take a slight nick off of Ben White on its way through? Perhaps. David Raya might argue that he had that covered, but it comes off the foot of the Arsenal post. I think it did come off of Ben White because Tottenham have themselves a corner kick. The left-hand post is man of the match so far, says Runs with Cows. Delivered into the near post. Did it go in at the far post? It almost did. My God. My God. Arsenal not dealing with those whipped-in deliveries from the Tottenham Hotspur corners. It was left-footed. It was whipped in. Again, it bounced, right, inside the 6-yard box. And it came off of Richarlison before coming off of the post, I think. Did Richarlison get the touch prior to it hitting the woodwork? I think he did. And the ball ended up going over the top of the bar, and Arsenal get away with that. That's definitely a Thomas Frank ploy, by the way. The way that they're whipping those corners in and having them bounce within the 6-yard box. They're sort of quite flat in the deliveries. And then the idea is that you get that bounce that causes the chaos and carnage inside the penalty area. And Arsenal at the moment are really, really struggling to deal with that. So it's working well for Spurs so far. We're normally very assured, aren't we, in dealing with set pieces. You certainly don't get that feeling today based on the first half an hour or so. Remember, if you're with us on YouTube, be sure to leave a like on the video. It really, really does help. Really helps. Subscribe to the channel as well if you are new or not subscribed for whatever reason. Get involved, support us here on the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast as we bring you daily Arsenal content. Podcast comes out on Apple, on Spotify daily. You can become a patron and get access to all our episodes ad-free, as well as some exclusive content. And if you're on X and you're joining us live on X right now, come over to the YouTube channel for a more full experience. There's over 1,400 of you with us live on YouTube right now, which is just remarkable. In terms of likes, though, where are we at? We want to get to 1,000 likes. That is our target that we set on these streams. We've only got 300 on the board so far, so give us a hand. Doesn't cost a thing. Hit that like button. Here's Rice for Arsenal. Saka looks to ping it back infield towards Odegaard. Move breaks down, but Rice wins it straight back for Arsenal high up. White into Odegaard. About 15 yards from the edge of the Tottenham penalty area. Here is Kivior. Now Saliba. Arsenal camped inside the Tottenham half at the moment as Odegaard works it out to the right wing for White. Then gets it back. There's Martin Odegaard, closed down by Bergvall, but sends a square ball into Jakub Kivior. Now Saliba. Odegaard again. Looking sharp, Martin Odegaard, as he delivers that towards the far post. He was looking for Martinelli. Pedro Porro heads it away. Miles Lewis-Skelly will recover and recycle for Arsenal. Saliba will clip it out to the right. Saka brings it under his spell. He's got Jed Spence for company. Odegaard back to support him. Saka goes in between the two of them like they weren't even there. But on the stretch, as he tried to continue his charge into the box, I think he caught Rodrigo Bentancur, who is down. And Tottenham have themselves a free kick as a result. Saka just gliding in between Odegaard and Spence. The touch was a little bit heavy, but he did poke the ball past Bentancur before he made contact with him, in fairness to Bukayo Saka. It wasn't a foul, you know. I feel like we're going to spend most of the Premier League season complaining about officials, so I don't want to start doing it from now, for God's sake. Even though that is a really, really poor decision. Really poor decision. We're going to have a cooling break now. There was some talk a few days ago about whether or not this game would go ahead. There's been some really bad weather in that part of the world, and there were suggestions that, you know, this fixture could be in danger. That would have been heartbreaking for those that have made the trip and for those that have been so eagerly awaiting the arrival of these two Premier League giants. I mean, I'm being a bit kind to Spurs by saying that, aren't I? But you know what I mean. What have you made of the first half an hour or so? Get involved. Let me know in the live chat. I'd love to hear from you. What have you made of the first third of this clash between Arsenal and Tottenham Hotspur as part of the Hong Kong Football Festival Remember, this is the last pre-season friendly that Arsenal play out in Asia before they return back to the UK, where they'll face Villarreal next week in midweek before taking on Athletic Club Bilbao on the Saturday. I'm not going to be at the Bilbao game. I'm a bit gutted about that, but I'm working on an EFL game at 3 p.m. I'll be back in time to watch it, I'd imagine, but I certainly won't be able to get there in time, which is a bit of a bummer, but I'll be at the Villarreal game. Let's get some of your thoughts on the game so far. Chris says, is it time to panic, Harry? No, come on. We're not going to panic over a preseason friendly. We're just not. I'm just not doing that. I'm not having it. Patrick Carlson says it's been too much Spurs. Graham says nothing new here. Maybe Chef says sounds like a good first half. Can't watch as I'm at work. Hasn't been great, mate. I'll be honest with you. Rusty Boy says panic from a friendly. T down under says bit flat after the bright first 5 minutes. Arsenal a bit disjointed at times. Says Stephen. Chad says that seems like we're struggling a little bit with the low block again. Lots of play around the perimeter. Darren says these overseas friendlies are just a cash cow. Meaningless. I mean, obviously they're meaningless because they're pre-season friendlies, but when you start building up and getting closer to the season, you do want to see something as a supporter, don't you? That just gives you a little bit of encouragement and a little bit of belief that your team are ready to go in what's going to be a long, grueling and difficult campaign. Just having a look at this foul from Ben White on Odegaard. I mean, I'm not sure it was a foul, really. Ben White just up to his usual tricks. Just feels like Ben White's got that edge back. That's one of the positives I've taken from the pre-season so far. You know, obviously struggled with injuries massively last season, but he looks like he's ready to go. And with Jurrien Timber obviously dealing with that surgery that he had to have at the back end of the last season, it's kind of refreshing, isn't it, to have Ben White back? And it means that we don't have to rush Timber back, and the pair of them can just share that role with none of them having to be pushed to their absolute limit as they both were at times last season, especially Timber. Arsenal have themselves a free kick on the right. That's a foul by Bentancur on Bukayo Saka, and it's a foul that Bentancur has gone into the book for. Was there any need to book him in a pre-season friendly? I mean, I'm not sure. But it is the Hong Kong Football Festival, so maybe they want to take it a bit more seriously than you or I. Arsenal free kick from the right-hand side. Declan Rice is going to take this. It's probably about 10 yards from the corner of the penalty area. Declan Rice is going to whip this ball in. Right-footed, in it goes. Headed away at the near post. Comes back to Declan Rice, but he's been forced a little bit deeper than his original starting position. In fact, he's on the halfway line now as he rolls it square to Ben White. Clips it out to the right wing. Can Saka keep this in play? Does just about. Manages to steer it into the path of Odegaard. Norgard. Here's Miles Lewis-Skelly. Out to the left-hand side for Gabriel Martinelli, looking to take on Pedro Porro. Works it back to Lewis-Skelly again on the corner of the box. Inside it goes to William Saliba, right-footed. Out to the right flank for Saka. Jed Spence comes to confront. Odegaard supporting him. Saka goes inside to Saliba. White down the line to Saka. Odegaard's just inside him, but Saka whips it in. Awkward bounce inside the Tottenham penalty area, but Van der Ven was able to steer it away for Tottenham, and Arsenal have it back again with Saliba, who plays a lovely ball through the lines for Odegaard. His touch wasn't great, but the ball, fortunately for Arsenal, breaks to Saka anyway. Havertz looking to make some room just inside the box and commits a foul in the process of trying to find a teammate. Just overstretched as he went to play that pass, and the whistle's blown. Tottenham free kick. Johnny says the numbers on the Spurs shirts look like they've been designed by nursery kids let loose with paint. Yeah, I'm not really sure what the whole idea behind that is, but it doesn't look great, I've got to be honest. Just going back to that incident between Saka and Bentancur, where I said that Saka shouldn't have been penalised for a foul. Fujian says that was a pen. I'm sure if it was a Premier League game, I'd have been all over that, appealing for that. but I'm not that fussed in a game like this, to be honest with you. Imar says, Harry, great commentary. In your opinion, did Arsenal play better during last year's pre-season? Honestly, mate, I can't remember. Pre-season doesn't exactly like sort of ingrain itself into my mind. And honestly, I can't remember what we played like last summer. I just can't. It's not really registering with me. Here's Pape Sarr. Now Bergvall. Here's Kudus looking to take on Miles Lewis-Skelly. Checks back onto that left foot. There's Mohamed Kudus. Uses Pedro Porro, who's come to support him. Ball into the half space for Bergvall, who then tries to flick it on, hoping that Kudus can latch onto the return pass. But there was an offside in there somewhere, and the flag's gone up on that far side. Not a long way from half-time at the minute. We've got, what, about 6 minutes of normal time to go. Heung-min Son, part of the Tottenham squad today. Lots of rumours surrounding his future. Will he remain a Tottenham Hotspur player, or is it time for him to move on? Here come Arsenal down the left-hand side with Martinelli, but he's committed a foul apparently to win it back. Tottenham free kick. Norgard not happy with that decision at all, making the referee aware of his feelings. Chad Adams says, have you heard anything about Big Gabby? Is his recovery going as planned? Honestly, I'm a bit bemused by the whole Big Gabby thing. Like, I'm not worried that it's anything major, but this is a guy that we heard played 45 minutes against Watford in that behind closed doors pre-season friendly, and then we haven't seen him feature since. I don't know this for sure, but I can only assume, if I'm guessing, I would say he's probably suffered a kind of minor setback, the type of which is very, very common when you're recovering from a severe injury. And Arsenal just don't want to take any risks with him. You know, you've got Kivior there up until today. Up until this game, Calafiori had been available as well. Mosquera has come into the group. Do you really need to take unnecessary risks with one of your best players? Probably not. And I'd imagine that's probably the way Arsenal have chosen to approach that. Arsenal win themselves another free kick deep inside the Tottenham half, just to the right of the penalty area. It's Spence was the one who committed the foul on Saka. Just came into the back of him, really, tried to step across him with his left leg and didn't make any contact with the ball in the end. Jed Spence, who's being talked about as someone who Tottenham are looking to strike a new deal with in terms of his contract. But he'll have to be switched on along with the rest of the Tottenham defence now, because Arsenal have a free kick from the right, and Declan Rice, who's been very, very effective with his deliveries in the past 12 months, I'd say, with Arsenal, is about to whip this into that Tottenham Hotspur penalty area. There's a gathering of Arsenal players in that far post area. Kivior's there, Havertz, Saliba, Norgard, all big, big lads, aren't they? Declan Rice will deliver this right-footed into the box. It was a little bit flat, the delivery, cleared away at the near post. Arsenal have it back though with Ben White, forced back to David Raya, who was pretty much on the halfway line there, sends it forward up towards Kai Havertz, loses out to Mickey van der Ven in that particular duel. Now it's with Mohamed Kudus in the Tottenham midfield. He's had his pocket picked, I thought fairly, but the referee says no, free kick to Tottenham, about 10 yards from the halfway line. Saliba and the rest of the Arsenal players just protesting their innocence there. That's what Mohamed Kudus brings, though. The ability to dribble, the ability to hold the ball. And there was a lot of Arsenal fans who felt going into the summer that he'd be a good option for us. I'm not so sure I would have spent big money on Mohamed Kudus, but you can see what he brings to Tottenham. The question is, can he do it consistently? He didn't at West Ham. He had a really underwhelming season last season. I thought I covered a load of their last sort of 7 or 8 games, and I didn't think he was particularly good at that point. Maybe he checked out. Havertz into Saka, tries to get to the byline. Romero has to come across, and then Romero with a brilliant bit of skill, really, to skip away from Kai Havertz, who came sliding in there, desperate to win it back for Arsenal. Tottenham on the counter-attack with Richarlison. Gyökeres steps in, smashes it up the pitch. It'll run all the way through to Vicario, and Tottenham will roll it out to Romero and go again. Half-time is fast approaching. Tempo not been great, really, has it? There's no Martin Zubimendi in the Arsenal side at the moment. Will he come on and give us just that bit more rhythm from the midfield? I'd imagine that's what people are hoping to see from him. You know, are we going to see Waneri or Dauman a little bit later on, players that are just that bit more direct and explosive? Are we going to see the big man, Viktor Gyökeres? How many minutes has he got in his legs? That's going to be interesting to see as well. It's an Arsenal goal kick that David Raya is not in any rush to take, really. Sends it long. Saka will challenge Spence for it. Saka's done well to control that out of the air. Spence used his long legs to just reach around Bukayo Saka's body and just poke it away, but he poked it straight to an Arsenal player. Odegaard then sends it out to the right for Havertz. Lovely ball into that right channel for Saka. Van de Ven sliding challenge, clean in the end, but you just got the impression there that Bukayo Saka was happy to kind of ride that challenge rather than overly commit. It is pre-season, I don't blame him. Here's Odegaard, corner of the box, left-footed delivery into the area, headed away by Van de Ven. Saliba picks it up midway through the Tottenham Hotspur half. Gyökeres. Back to Raya. Lovely ball through the lines to Lewis Skelly, but he's run into trouble there, Lewis Skelly. Raya's way off his line, and he's been chipped. And Tottenham Hotspur have taken the lead. It's a stunning, stunning Tottenham goal. And it was Pape Matar Sarr who won the ball back for Tottenham Hotspur, and who immediately looked up and saw David Raya miles off of his line and just chips it over the Spaniard, who was rushing back towards his own goal and could do nothing about it. It's a brilliant finish. You got to applaud the quick thinking of the player. Scored a couple of goals at the weekend, Pape Matar Sarr. Lewis Skelly it was that ran into trouble, but in truth, the pass from Raya was a hospital pass. It was a really poor pass. Lewis Skelly turns, beats, he's gone past Richarlison, but he runs straight into Pape Matar Sarr's challenge, and then Raya, who's miles out because that's the way he's asked to play, is completely caught out there by the Tottenham Hotspur man. It's an excellent finish, and Arsenal trail. 3 minutes of added time at the end of this half. Thomas Frank's got a big smile on his face. I'd imagine Mikel Arteta hasn't. The Gunners trail. There's a lot of people in the chat that feel that David Raya has almost been asking for that for quite some time. As I said, it just there. You know, it's the way he's asked to play. Now, do I think he could manage that on an individual level a bit better than he does? Yeah, for sure. But he's asked to be that goalkeeper. He's asked to be that guy that's always, you know, supporting the play, part of the build-up, etc., etc. We moaned about it loads last season. I remember talking about it and saying, you know, when you get to the business end of the season and you're relying on your goalkeeper to be a big source of your sort of play from deep, it just doesn't work for me. Was Lewis Skelly fouled in the build-up to that, do you think? He might have been. I need to see it again, to be honest. Anyway, Arsenal free kick. Delivered into the Tottenham box from the left-hand side. That's headed over the top of the Tottenham crossbar by Pape Matar Sarr, incidentally, the man whose goal separates these two sides at the moment. Decent delivery into the box from Odegaard. It was aimed at Cristhian Mosquera, who is effective from those set-piece situations. See, I do want to see the Miles Lewis-Skelly thing again. We can talk about it at half-time, because Miles Lewis-Skelly is one of those players that likes to put his body in the way, and I think sometimes in the past he's been guilty of relying on that foul then being committed. I need to watch that one again to be able to kind of cast the judgment, but it something he's got to do better, I think, whether it was his fault this time or not. As Arsenal whip the corner in, it's headed towards goal, I think, by Kai Havertz, and it takes another deflection and goes behind for another Arsenal corner. Who was it that got that final touch? There was a crowd of Arsenal players. Difficult to make it out. But Arsenal have another corner. This will probably be the last action of the first half. Can they make it count? Declan Rice is about to take it. Into the box it goes, towards the far post this time. Havertz heads it down into the ground. Bit of a scramble in the Tottenham Hotspur goal mouth, and it's smashed away by Richarlison. Arsenal just applying some pressure at the end of this first period. As Havertz is headed down into the ground. Oh, did it come off the arm of the Tottenham defender? I mean, again, it's a pre-season friendly. I'm not going to go crazy about it, but would VAR have had a good look at that? I think they would have at least taken a look. Arsenal corner. Saka into the box. Flicked on, or flicked away, I should say, by a Tottenham Hotspur defender. And that'll be the last action of the first period. It's Arsenal 0, Tottenham Hotspur 1 at the break. Pape Matar with the goal to separate the two sides. And what a finish it was, really. He caught David Raya out. Are there question marks about whether Miles Lewis-Skelly was fouled in the lead up to that? I think there are, and we'll certainly try and make sense of what exactly happened during the course of half-time when we get that replay. But, I mean, look, initial reaction to that goal, for me, is that you can't turn into trouble in a central area like that when you're playing against the high press. And do I partly blame Miles Lewis-Skelly? Look, if he was fouled, obviously, that's a different matter. But if he wasn't fouled, you're going to question why he's turning into that area. But more so, I think, you've got to question David Raya, because David Raya, as the goalkeeper, he can see the game in front of him. He can see the pitch in front of him. He should know better than anybody else, what the landscape looks like. You've got that benefit of facing the game. Lewis-Skelly doesn't have that in that scenario. And we always talk about top players, don't we? And we say it's like they've got eyes in the back of their head because they know what's going on around them. You don't have eyes in the back of your head, and so at times you are going to get it wrong, right? You can't glance over both shoulders. You look over one, you have a look. You might not see someone who's in your blind spot. And so in those types of situations, I do want to obviously talk about the player that that loses the ball ultimately. But at the same time, I think as a goalkeeper, you've got a responsibility to see what's going on. And we saw that a little bit, didn't we, at the back end of last season from David Raya. I'm pretty sure we saw something similar in the Real Madrid away game, didn't we, where the ball was played to Saliba, and it was like, well, why are you giving it to Saliba in that situation? If you're David Raya, you can see, can't you, what's going on? So, yeah, look, the highlights are rolling now, so I'm sure we'll get a look at it, just rolling through the highlights at the moment. But while we're sort of building up and getting to that key moment, I really do want to have a good look at. Be sure to leave a like on the video if you haven't done so already, and please do subscribe to the channel as well. We'd love to get as close to that milestone of 45,000 before the season starts as we possibly can. Just having a look at some of those Tottenham corner deliveries, which were very deliberate in my opinion, by the way. The way they were kind of dropped into that danger zone, and the way that they were sort of delivered with a trajectory that means a kind of funny bounce inside the 6-yard box. So, yeah, interesting stuff. Arsenal struggle with that. Here's the effort that Declan Rice had. It never really kind of sat down for him. He did get a shot off, to be fair to him, but it was never really going to be, I didn't think, too troubling to Guillermo Vicario in the Tottenham goal. Just on the likes, by the way, while we're waiting for that goal to come about on the highlights package, please do try and help us get up to 1,000 likes if you can. I'd really, really appreciate that. And if you're watching us on X, come over to the YouTube channel, become part of the family, subscribe, all the rest of it, and you'll get access to all of our content. Lots of comments coming through about the goal, about the way that the game's gone so far. I'll give you my kind of thoughts on the first half in general in a moment. I just don't want to miss this replay of the goal, because I think it's really important that we try and establish whether or not Miles Lewis-Skelly was fouled there. If he was, then obviously my analysis of the situation is going to be very, very different. But yeah, I mean, it's difficult to tell from that initial replay because it's like a zoomed out version. Let's have a look at the close-ups. I'm assuming there will be a close-up. Hold on. I think there will be a close-up. Let's have another look here. Was he clipped a little bit by Richarlison? He might well have been. He might well have been. But you know what has caught him out here? This is going to sound really sort of, yeah, he was fouled by Richarlison. He absolutely was fouled by Richarlison. I still don't think you should be that soft in a situation like that. And so let's break this goal down, right? Let's break this down into a few segments, right? So first of all, should Raya play the pass? In my opinion, no, he shouldn't. Second of all, Lewis-Skelly's been fouled, but I think Lewis-Skelly in the past and at times has shown that when he feels the contact, that he's going to play for the foul. And I don't think you can always risk that because there will be instances where those fouls are not picked up. And okay, in a top Premier League game where there's VAR and all the rest of it, Tottenham probably don't get away with that. But I think you've got to get out of that habit of just whenever you feel even the slightest something going down and thinking that that's going to get you out of jail. And Miles Lewis-Skelly, for me, as great a player as he is, does that a little bit too much. So that's the other thing. What I think has completely caught, though, both David Raya and Miles Lewis-Skelly out here is that if you watch the replay again, Pape Matar Sarr, he doesn't start from the next line. So if you're sort of Arsenal and you're trying to build that from the back, right, you're trying to find Miles Lewis-Skelly because he's in between the striker and the midfield. Pape Matar Sarr begins his run from the furthest line possible and then breaks into that space and does it very, very quickly and sharply. Credit to him. But I think that's what's caught Arsenal out there. Look, it's a silly goal to give away. It's a cheap goal to give away. But ultimately, there's a foul in there, and that goal does not stand in a competitive environment. So are we going to lose our heads over it? No. But obviously, we don't want to be losing to Spurs under any circumstances, on any occasion. And hopefully, we can, of course, turn that around. Right. I think I'm going to take a really, really short pause. Really, really short pause. Just a couple of minutes or so before the second half kicks on. Need a bit of water, and we'll go again very, very shortly. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast. Welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner watch-along of Arsenal versus Tottenham out in Hong Kong, where the Gunners currently trail by a 1-0. Pape Matar chipped effort puts Tottenham in front, and Arsenal have it all to do, don't they, in that second period. I'm quite proud of myself. I've just run into the house, used the gents, got myself a bottle of water, and made it back all in the space of 2 minutes. I am a bit out of breath, though, as you can probably tell. Let's get some of your thoughts and comments from that first half. Look, it did lack intensity. It did lack rhythm from an Arsenal perspective. And yeah, you want to see more, don't you? You want to see more. You do want to see more from Arsenal. Magnum, I beg your pardon, says, put on an Arsenal shirt and we will turn it around. I'm doing a Rory Jennings. I don't wear Arsenal shirts. I've got my Arsenal shirts in the background. I don't know why they're all angled and funny at the moment. I think my son must have been... I did tell him, actually, to come in and replace one of them with another one. So he's probably been messing about with all of that. Let's go back into the live chat. The Ballot Gooner says, that's not the slightest thing, Harry, talking about the contact on Miles Lewis-Skelly. Says, please stop with the blame. He's been tripped. If you played football, you'll know how it feels to be tripped from behind when you're running at speed. I said that he'd been fouled. The minute I saw the replay properly, I said that he'd been fouled. I'm not denying that he's been fouled, and I'm not being negative. I don't care. It's a pre-season friendly. You're not going to see me banging on about it for weeks and weeks and weeks. My point is that in Miles Lewis-Skelly's game, there is a tendency to put his kind of body in between opposition player and the ball and look to draw fouls out of people. There is a tendency in his game to do that. We see it over and over again. And when you play that way, right, most of the time you're going to get the right decision. But a lot of the time, you know, it's going to be 50-50, you know, and they're going to say, well, did you actually trip him or was there just a bump from behind? Like, I just think it's a really risky way to play the game. And when you're in midfield, you can do it. But when you're playing as deep as he does in this Arsenal team at times, or when you're receiving the ball from the goalkeeper, you just got to be a little bit careful with it. I'm not saying crucify the guy. I'm simply saying it's something that I think he probably needs to maybe just develop on a little bit and improve on in terms of the way he does that. So yeah, let's see. Let's see if he learns the lesson in the season to come. I'm not making a massive deal out of it, man. It's a pre-season friendly, for God's sake. Manny says, Harry's version of the bleep test, the toilet break. Yeah, absolutely. Harry doing shuttle runs. Do you know what happened to me the other day when we were doing a watch along? I sort of ran in, desperate to go to the loo, and when I got inside, my daughter was in there, and of course took ages, and I had to like abort mission and run back to make the second half, and ended up not actually using the loo, which was a nightmare, and having to hold it for another 45 minutes. But hey, it is what it is. I mean, there's some really random comments in the stream today from some, I would imagine, non-regulars. Someone saying that the shirts, what do you mean the shirts look dusty? They're all bloody clean. What are you talking about? Anyway, I'm not going to bite to it. Bush D says, the trolls are on the rampage today. Listen, mate, when Arsenal are not winning, people are naturally not happy, right? And you're going to get that bit of negativity. Let's hope that we can turn it around in the second half, and then we don't have to have these conversations, and we don't have to sort of entertain that narrative. Again, like I made the point before, does it mean a bit more because it's against them? Yeah, sure it does. But in the grand scheme of things, like, are we going to lose our heads over what's happening? Someone says, Harry, you only have one washroom in the UK house. I've got a second one being sorted at the moment, but only one in use at the moment, which is an issue. Yes. Magnum says, and thank you for your very kind donation. I beg your pardon, mate. Hold on, let me just cough this out. Well, bloody hell, I don't know what that was. It almost looks like we were practicing long balls in that half. I think it will be totally different second half with Zubimendi. Yeah, I mean, look, ultimately, we've always said, haven't we, that, you know, when you look at sort of our midfield and the makeup of it, you know, when we didn't have, for example, last season, when we never had a Partey or a Jorginho in the team, we struggled with that kind of tempo setting and rhythm, didn't we? We just never really got enough of that. Obviously, Zubimendi's coming to be that, but he's not been on the pitch. I don't think Cristhian Mosquera is that. I don't think he's the same player as Zubimendi, not in any way, shape, or form. And that's why when people talk about him as being really good cover, yeah, he is to a point, but he's also very different cover. And that was part of the reason why when we made that signing, I was a little bit unsure about it. As far as I can tell, as the two teams come back out onto the field of play, it doesn't look like Arsenal have made any changes. We'll bring you confirmation of that as soon as we get it, but it doesn't look like the Gunners have made any changes just yet. There's Pape Matar Sarr. Son Heung-min still on the bench for Tottenham. And yeah, from an Arsenal perspective, it doesn't look like Mikel's made any changes just yet. Martin Odegaard still on the pitch. Paul James says his negativity comes from a terrible first half performance. We can't defend corners and had no shots on target. It's a frigging shambles. No, listen, I'm not criticising people for being frustrated with what they've seen today. My point is just don't overreact too much. Like there's not really any need. There's just no need. You know, it's a pre-season game at the end of the day. It's just because it's against this lot that makes it worse for me anyway. That's how I feel. Saliba. Here's Kivior looking to accelerate away from Richarlison, running into Pape Matar Sarr, who again wins the ball back for Tottenham. You suspect he could be a really important player for them if Thomas Frank can get the best out of him. Here's Porro coming down the right, looks to go beyond Lewis Skelly again, trying to use his body, loses out. Porro flashes it across the Arsenal 6-yard box, and in the end, Odegaard has to steer it out to the right-hand side. And Arsenal look to break away now. Here's Ben White. Now Norgard in midfield. Loses out to Bergvall. Followed him all the way, Bergvall, to be fair. And then just pinched it off the toe of Norgard, and Tottenham have it now inside the centre circle. Is that a foul by Saka? I think it is, about 20 yards inside his own half. He's complaining about it, Bukayo Saka. He doesn't feel that that was the right decision. It was Pape Matar Sarr who's just sort of ran across Bukayo Saka's stride. It was maybe a kind of coming together, but it certainly wasn't any more than that. And Tottenham have it now down the left, looking to make something happen. Here's Odegaard on the left wing for Spurs. Bergvall's gone out to the left-hand side to join him. Tottenham still in possession. There's Christian Romero inside the centre circle for Spurs. Out to the right for Mohamed Kudus, looking to go beyond Miles Lewis-Skelly. Talked about him as being a really, really tricky customer. And Kudus, who thought he'd won a corner out of Miles Lewis-Skelly there, is disappointed to see the linesman there on that near side just point for the goal kick. You've got to stay switched on all the time when you're defending against a player like Mohamed Kudus, because he's got such a quick turn of pace and such a quick sort of ability to sort of shift his feet that, you know, you can blink and he's past you. As I've said multiple times on the stream today, he hasn't always sort of shown that consistently, but we know that he's got it in the locker. Here is Saliba at the heart of the Arsenal defence. You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner watch along of Arsenal versus Tottenham Hotspur from the Kai Tak Stadium in Hong Kong, part of the Hong Kong Football Festival. Massive thank you to everybody who is with us. Saka plays it into that right channel, just forced Kai Havertz a little bit wider than he would have liked to go, and he couldn't bring it under control in the way that he would have liked, and the move breaks down for Arsenal. And that'll be a Tottenham Hotspur goal kick. Frustrating there because the break was on there for the Gunners. Here we go. Cue the Kai Havertz slander in the live chat. I think people forget that Kai Havertz was out right up until the last 1 or 2 games of last season, and is obviously going to still be a bit rusty as well. We've signed Viktor Gyökeres. Viktor Gyökeres will be our number 9. Kai Havertz, for me, is starting at the moment because Gyokeres is not ready. There's no need to kind of stick the boot in on him as Tottenham come forward with Kudus. Checks inside onto the left foot, fizzes it into Pape Matar, but the move breaks down. Odegaard desperately trying to work it away for Arsenal, fails to do so, and Tottenham have it again. And Arsenal this time are camped behind the ball. Here's Van der Ven. Out to the left for Odegaard. Back inside it goes to Bentancur. Lays it off to Sarr. Now Romero at the back for Spurs. Into Porro, just inside the Tottenham half. Drives inside from that right back position, then turns back on the outside and plays it into the feet of Mohamed Kudus. Miles Lewis-Skelly snapping away at the heels of him, but couldn't win it back for Arsenal. Kudus then carrying it inside and winning a free kick out of Miles Lewis-Skelly, who followed him. Tottenham enjoying a spell of possession at the moment. Arsenal struggling to get a hold of the ball, let alone create the chances to get themselves back on level terms. Here's Odegaard from Tottenham's left-hand side. Van der Ven back out to the left where Bergval's taking up position. Lays it off to Jed Spence, who's up in support, and Arsenal pinch it back. Odegaard now into the feet of Kai Havertz, just inside the Tottenham half. Under a challenge, manages to lay it off for Saka, and then Odegaard will switch it out to the left-hand side. The ball was behind Declan Rice, but he'll get there first and then just lays it off to Miles Lewis-Skelly, and Arsenal can build again. Here is Kai Havertz on the right wing this time for Arsenal. Tries to play it inside to Odegaard, gets the pass horribly wrong and plays it straight to Bergval. Now that was frustrating. But Havertz wins it back for Arsenal, deep inside the Tottenham half. He's got support to the left of him in Gabriel Martinelli. He's got 2 defenders for company. Little step over and then the left-footed cross is blocked. It goes out for an Arsenal throw-in deep inside the Tottenham Hotspur half, almost on the corner flag. Martinelli, I think, is going to leave this for Miles Lewis-Skelly to take. Yep, he'll walk away from it, the Brazilian. Lewis-Skelly to Kivior. Kivior square to Saliba. White. Saka on the right-hand side for Arsenal, but almost on the halfway line, which is not where he wants to be. He wants to be higher up. He wants to be in a position where he can do damage. It's not going to cause Tottenham too many problems from there, is he? And Tottenham, I think, will be quite happy with him playing in that sort of area. That's a ball over the top of the fullback, Jed Spence, looking for Saka, but that had way too much on it from William Saliba, and it goes all the way through to Guillermo Vicario in the Tottenham Hotspur goal. Norgard's header. Rice. We are getting a lot of spam in the live chat from what I can see, which is frustrating. I don't know if there's anything I can do about it. Can we make the chat subscribers only midway through the stream? Can we do that? Moderation activity, community participants. No, I don't know what I'm doing here. Hold on. Let me see if I can do that, because I know that will just limit some of that spam that we're getting in the chat. And when I say spam, I don't mean people who have different opinions to me. I mean like nonsense stuff that has nothing to do with football or anything that we're talking about. It's a foul on Norgard, was it? As Arsenal come down the right with Havertz. It's on the corner of the penalty area. Back inside it goes to Miles Lewis-Skelly on the left-hand side. Martinelli on the left. Pings it into Lewis-Skelly. On the edge of the box. Goes back to William Saliba. Tees up Odegaard on the edge of the box, but he's got 3 white shirts around him. Works it right to Ben White. Low delivery into the area. Van der Ven's clearance, a poor one. Gave Saka a little sniff there, but nothing really came of it. And now it's Martinelli on the left-hand side. Rice's cross blocked. Back out to the left for Rice again. Now Tottenham have it back. I'm not sure if I can change what I'm talking about changing here. Hold on a second. There we go. Subscribers only on the chat. That should change now. That'll hopefully help in terms of just managing some of that spam that's coming through. There we go. So have I done it subs only? Did a message come up to say that it's changed to subs only? Yep, I think it did. Okay, we're good. Right, let's focus back on the game. Tottenham Hotspur have had 52% of the possession. And it's not often we get beaten on possession, is it? But we're really struggling to find any flow, any rhythm at the moment. And Mikel Arteta looks frustrated. Gabriel Heinze always looks angry, doesn't he? Sitting on the substitutes bench. Saliba at right centre-back. Ben White down the line, looking for Bukayo Saka. It was over the top of Jed Spence. Saka gets there, turns back onto that left foot of his. Manages to reposition himself and then uses White on the overlap. White's ball into the box. Bergvall was back there defending. Havertz trying desperately to stop Romero escaping with possession. It breaks to Odegaard on the edge of the box. Shot took a deflection and flies over the top of Vicario's goal. Arsenal win a corner. If we are looking for a positive today, right? If we are looking for a positive, Martin Odegaard's been a lot more kind of shoot on sight, hasn't he, today? Like he's had 3 or 4 opportunities, and yeah, he's been closed down and the efforts have been blocked and all the rest of it, but he's sort of really wanted to let fire at every given opportunity. And that's something that I think during periods of last season where Arsenal weren't playing particularly well and he wasn't playing particularly well, you could say he wasn't doing enough of. Was this a foul on Romero for Arsenal to win the ball back inside the Tottenham penalty area? Honestly, after the goal that they scored, I don't really care. I don't really care. Arsenal corner. Bukayo Saka's going to take it. Be sure to leave a like on the video if you're watching us on YouTube and haven't done so already. We've got that target of 1,000 likes. Can we get there between now and the end of the game? That would be amazing. Saka's ball in. Dealt with at the near post. Not the greatest delivery, although I imagine that he was deliberately looking for that near post area. Lewis-Skelly through the lines to Havertz. Lovely layoff, and Arsenal almost find an equaliser there through Gabriel Martinelli. He was just on the stretch, wasn't he? As he took the shot on, he was off balance as he let fly, but really good link-up play. That was Kai Havertz doing what Kai Havertz does best. He's been a little bit frustrating at times this afternoon. There's no question about that, but it's a lovely first touch layoff into the path of Martinelli. He takes a touch with the right foot and then tries to find the top corner with the outside of his right boot. But he's off balance, he's on the stretch, and he can't keep the effort down. But that's better from Arsenal. looking a bit more lively in and around that Tottenham Hotspur penalty area. Just over half an hour to go. Pedro Porro wants to take the throw on, and he's getting annoyed with where Mikel Arteta is standing. Mikel Arteta's standing basically on the touchline, right? And he's basically in protest of where Pedro Porro is taking the throw in from, standing in the player's way. It's so Mikel Arteta. It's fantastic. Syed in the chat says, Harry, you can also turn on slow mode too. It's what Arteta has on now. Very good, very good. Very good. Arsenal throw-in on the left. Miles Lewis-Skelly is going to take it. Norgard with the back heel. Rice on the stretch, but loses out to Bergvall. And breaks on for Tottenham here with Richarlison. He's got Odegaard to his left. Decides to go on his own. In the end, he was crowded out. And Kivior just really calm and really patient, just knowing when the right moment was to step in and pinch the ball from him. Arsenal free kick just shy of the halfway line out on that right-hand side. Here's Kivior at left centre-back for Arsenal. Now feels about the right time for Mikel Arteta to look to the bench. We're going to see changes soon. I hope so, because we do need a freshening up, don't we, of the team. Here's Odegaard. Just inside the Tottenham half. Lovely ball into the feet of Declan Rice. Takes it under control. Finds Kivior, who's in a left-back-like position. Down the line to Martinelli, looking to take on Pedro Porro. Looks to go on the outside of him, but Porro read Martinelli's intentions, and on the stretch, puts the ball out of play for an Arsenal throw-in. Ian Wallace says, I keep telling myself it's a pre-season friendly, but I still can't help being disappointed. Norgard doesn't seem like he can handle the pace needed, even with Rice in support. I don't think it's about Norgard's mobility. I don't think it's about him getting around the pitch. I think it's just about the skill set that he possesses. Saka. Saliba. Pings it out to the right. White manages to bring it under control. Difficult one to bring under control, to be fair to Ben White. And that'll be a Tottenham throw-in about midway through their half. 61.5 minutes on the clock. Arsenal trail. It's Tottenham who are going to make 3 changes. Matthias Tell, Kevin Danso, and Brennan Johnson are the 3 coming on. And Thomas Frank moving first in terms of changes. Oh, good afternoon, ref. He's finally caught up with what's going on. So Danso, Tell, and Johnson on. Romero, Kudus, and Richarlison off. Kudus probably be replaced by Tell. Actually, you know what? I think Tell goes at centre forward, and then I think you get Brennan Johnson going on the right hand side. I think that's probably the way Tottenham are going to do it. Obviously, Danso goes straight into the back line to replace Romero. No real surprises there. Taking their sweet time over these changes. How are we doing on the likes front? Let me know so I don't have to unlock my phone and check. Scared about navigating away from this page on my very old laptop. I've got two laptops, right? I use one as like a base laptop that just sits here. Camera's plugged into it, microphone's plugged into it, but it's a bit older. And I always worry about like opening loads of stuff on it in terms of the capacity that it can handle. So let me know where we're at on the likes. Save me messing around with that and potentially jeopardising the stream. Here's Jed Spence coming down the left for Tottenham. 618 likes. Come on, let's get up to 1,000. It's more than enough of you watching. There's nearly 2,000 of you with us on YouTube and over 7,000 of you with us on X. If you're joining us on X, come over to the YouTube channel to get a fuller experience. And you can subscribe, turn the notifications on. That way you'll never miss a show. And you'll get access to all our podcasts as well. You can also get access to those on Spotify and Apple. And you can join us on Patreon if you like, which gives you ad-free access to all of those podcasts, but also some exclusive content as well. Silver Arrow says, please like the video, not in the chat. Yeah, like the video, not the chat. Not the love hearts in the chat. They don't do anything for me. Never Red, Always Blue says, it's a Tottenham fan. Really not here to gloat, but this is the best coverage of the game by far. Good job. Thank you very much, mate. If that is sincere and you're not really here to gloat, I would be if I was you. Here comes Tottenham down the left-hand side. Opportunity, but Ben White comes and closes the door on Odebear, who was looking pretty lively down that left-hand side for Spurs on that occasion. D1997 says, this is absolutely effing painful to watch. Really bloody is. Really, really is. Matthias Tell's going to deliver this Tottenham Hotspur corner. 65 minutes on the clock. Into the box it goes. Headed away by Havertz at the near post. Steered back out wide by Jed Spence to Matthias Tell. Odegaard goes out to confront him. Tell still has possession just to the left of the area. Digs out across left-footed towards the far post, and that's headed wide. And Tottenham really, really ought to have doubled their lead there. Mickey van der Ven. So close to making it Arsenal 0, Tottenham Hotspur 2. Matthias Tell just stood up Martin Odegaard. Little change of pace. Created the half a yard for the cross. Left-footed in towards the far post. And Van der Ven, who was always going to beat Miles Lewis-Skelly in an aerial contest, just couldn't keep his header on target. Had he done that, he would have felt that it was very much game over here. Told you guys before kickoff, didn't I, that yeah, it's a pre-season friendly. I don't want to overreact, but against this lot, it means something. Every game against them does. And so I understand the disappointment and the frustration that people are feeling right now. Still no changes, by the way, from Mikel Arteta. 66 minutes on the clock. Does this mean that this is the team that he intends to start the season with? Because there's a few areas that, you know, I'm not in agreement with in terms of this selection. I certainly think the defence is probably the one that starts the season. I certainly think Saka plays. I'd like to think that Gyokeres will be ready by the start of the season. Maybe he won't be. I definitely don't want to see the Norgard-Rice midfield. I want to see Zubimendi in there for sure. I don't even know if I want to see Martinelli playing from the left on his current form. I know that Madueke is coming back late because of the Club World Cup, but I'd rather play Trossard at the moment. And we're going to see two changes now. The players that I've mentioned, the players that I don't want to see starting the first game of the season, by the looks of things, are going to be replaced. Norgard off, Zubimendi on, Martinelli off, Trossard on. Double change from Arsenal. Let's see Zubimendi hopefully pull some strings in the middle of the park. Here's Trossard on the left-hand side. Falls probably wider than he would have liked. Kivior square to Saliba. Out to the right-hand side it goes to Bukayo Saka. Ben White, corner of the box, whips it into the area, headed away by Danso. Struck back towards goal there by Martin Zubimendi, did his effort take a deflection on its way? I think it did. Arsenal corner. But you can just see like the difference in technique between Zubimendi and Norgard. I'm not seeking to like criticize Norgard too heavily. It's a preseason friendly. But look at that. Zubimendi arrives, timing's great, takes it on the chest, right-footed effort. Just a little bit more class, isn't it? And listen, I thought similar things when we're talking about Norgard, about Mikel Merino, and over time he kind of grew on me and I started to appreciate his value. So I'm not going to write the guy off. No, don't get me wrong, but it just doesn't feel quite right with that balance of Norgard and Rice. Saka's corner delivered in, headed away at the near post. Miles Lewis-Skelly trying to keep it alive for Arsenal. And then Trossard looks to help it out to the right-hand side for Saka. Tottenham clear up to halfway. It was Odegaard who'd done the running back there to make sure that he could bring the ball under the control and just lay it off to Raya, and Arsenal go again. Here's Havertz on the edge of the Tottenham box. Havertz, his effort didn't really get a hold of it, and it was straight down the throat of Guillermo Vicario, which made it a comfortable save in the end for the Tottenham Hotspur goalkeeper. Raya's Route 1 ball. It's Porro that couldn't quite sort himself out defensively there. Tottenham's positioning was a little bit all over the place from the corner that they just defended. Here's White down the right-hand side for Arsenal. Cuts it back to the edge of the box. Martin Odegaard kicks it into the ground. He completely scuffed it. And the ball is cleared away. Trossard inside. Zubimendi on the stretch, keeps the move ticking. Lewis-Skelly down the line for Trossard again. Trossard pings it back inside to Martin Odegaard. Ben White, corner of the penalty area on Arsenal's right-hand side, delivers in towards the far post area. Trossard will just about keep this in play. He has to scurry all the way out to the corner flag, though. Sent far wider than he would have liked, I'd imagine. Lewis-Skelly lays it off to Kivior. Back out to Trossard. Kivior once again whips in a really good ball. Well, it looked a really good ball initially, but in the end, Guillermo Vicario was the only one close enough to it to really kind of make it his own, and he gathers the ball really, really confidently. And Arsenal, with less than 20 minutes to go, continue to trail Tottenham Hotspur out in Hong Kong. No sign of Viktor Gyökeres yet. Been hugely popular, Viktor Gyökeres, in terms of shirt sales over the last week or so. It's not even been a week really, has it? Just under a week since he was announced as an Arsenal player, but the early indications were that records had been broken in terms of recent times. Kivior, Trossard. Back inside to Kivior. He's kind of playing a bit like a left back at the moment, and we saw him put that wonderful delivery in for Saka's goal against Milan, didn't we? We know he's got that in the locker, Jakub Kivior, and he's just got a bit more confidence about him these days, and really does have that belief that he can step into those more advanced positions and help the team out. Lewis-Skelly will whip this into the box towards the far post. Jed Spence had no idea what was going on around him there and ends up heading the ball behind for an Arsenal corner on 72 minutes. How are we doing on likes? Anywhere near that 1,000 mark yet? Please tell me that we are. That would at least make me happy. The game's not doing it for me right now. Saka preparing to take the corner. Left-footed ball in towards the far post. This time Declan Rice's header back across the face of goal. Tottenham half clear. Saka kicks it down into the ground and it bobbles into the Tottenham penalty area. But they get a couple of opportunities to work it clear, and they do so successfully. Saka wins it back for Arsenal. Goes under down under a challenge from Tell. Play on, says the referee. I think he gave advantage there. Saka's still down on the ground, which isn't great for Arsenal, but will they stop the game? Will they put it out of play? Martin Odegaard just puts his foot on the ball, and Bukayo Saka is holding his right thigh. Let's have another look at what happened here. Tell just went clattering into him, didn't he? Painful one. He gets a kind of half-assed apology from Matthias Tell. Tottenham preparing more changes. Bissouma's ready. Heung-min Son is ready. Just the two, though, from Arsenal so far, which I think would surprise people. Like, why not get Max Dowman on? Why not get Viktor Gyökeres on? Like, why not get Ethan Nwaneri on? Like, they can't do any less than what we've already seen from the players that are already out there. Tottenham are going to bring Davis on as well. Cooling break. Is that what this is? Or are the players just taking the opportunity to get some fluids on board while Bukayo Saka is being seen to? Yep, cooling break. I know it's pre-season. I know you shouldn't overreact. But this has been incredibly frustrating to watch. I mean, I've talked a lot about, last season I felt that we were lacking that spark, that creativity, that spontaneity. And we've brought some players in to try and help us with that, right? One of them was Viktor Gyökeres. Clearly, they don't feel he's ready to get competitive. It's not competitive, but you know what I mean. To get minutes in a game situation at this stage. Noni Madueke, who, listen, isn't a signing I was massively on board with, but clearly the club feel he can add that type of thing, is not around because he participated at the Club World Cup. So in a lot of instances, it feels like the signings that we made to sort of deal with some of the issues, and still might make, I'm hoping that we get Emirates as well. They're not available to support us now. So you shouldn't be massively surprised that things look pretty same old. But, yes, look, fitness is a big thing at this stage, and fitness is what it's all about, ultimately. But like the Norgard-Rice midfield, that ain't going to work. And I could have told you that wasn't going to work before we saw it really kind of struggle today against semi-decent opposition. So, yeah, I'm hoping that, we're going to see something different when the season starts. Arsenal are making some changes now. Marino's coming on. Mosquera's coming on to make his Arsenal debut. Max Dowman is coming on. Zinchenko is coming on. And Viktor Gyökeres is finally coming on. He's going to get 15 or so minutes at the end of this one. Viktor Gyökeres is about to make his Arsenal debut. Is it bad that I'm just as excited to see Max Dowman come on as I am Viktor Gyökeres? Here he comes, Arsenal's number 14, the big man. He'll go up front for Mikel Arteta's side. I'll give you confirmation of who's made way as soon as I get it. It's very hard when you're doing a game off TV pictures because you can't see what's going on. But Mosquera making his debut as well. That's good to see. Player that Arsenal really, really liked and were willing to go out and spend decent money on this summer. Gyokeres straight on the penalty spot. You can only assume he's replaced Kai Havertz. Mikel Merino nice and close to him as well. Here's Trossard on the left. Merino forces a corner. So for Spurs, Son, Davis and Bissouma on. And Spurs have a corner to defend now because Mikel Merino's forcing of one could generate quite the opportunity for Arsenal here as Odegaard whips it in. Comes to Max Dowman. Strike towards goal. I tell you what, that was on target, That had Vicario panicked. Brilliant technique from the young man. He just kind of watched it come through to him. He's left-footed, Max Dowman, and he hit that with his right, which was pretty impressive. Arsenal corner from the right. Flicked on. Goes behind, but who did it come off last? I think it came off an Arsenal player. Tottenham goal kick. Just over 10 minutes to go. Over 2,000 of you with us live on YouTube right now, which is just phenomenal. Thank you so much. Be sure to leave your likes on the video. It really does help. Subscribe to the channel as well if you haven't done so already. PDJ, who's joining us via X at the moment, says, Mr. Symeou, I love your pod and it carries me through every day at work. Thank you, mate. He says, glad to have an off day and catch a live stream. Thank you for being here, mate, and appreciate your support of the pod. Guitar solos having a little pop. This is a pre-season game, Harry. 1 minute you say you're not putting too much stock into the game. Then the next you're saying this game proves that Norgard will not work. Make up your mind, mate. No, I'm not putting massive amounts of stock in the game. I'm reacting to the game live. I am not going to sit here and cry about this defeat if it ends this way for the next week, like I would if this was a Premier League game. So I'm not putting the same level of stock into it. But sometimes, right, you have an opinion and then you sit down and you watch a game, and whether it's pre-season or not, you can see if the dynamic works. You can see if there's a balance to something. And I said that there wouldn't be a balance to a midfield that had Rice and Norgard in it. And that, again, we'd be back to kind of stage one where we were last season, where it's like, well, then all the sort of creativity falls on the shoulders of Martin Odegaard, who everybody knows we're going to try and funnel things through, channel things through, and he's going to do a very good job of trying to block him out. So, like, Zubimendi needs to be in this team for Arsenal to be, for the balance of the midfield to be right, just like Partey or Jorginho needed to play. Last season, if you had Rice at 6 and then Merino at 8, it didn't work. Balance is the most important thing in a football team. I've always maintained that. Mosquera, flicked on by Trossard. Viktor Gyökeres does look a little bit unfit, doesn't he? He just looked a little bit slow there to close down. I don't want to, like, is he just not as pacey as maybe I thought he was, or is he just feeling it a little bit? Let's see. Trossard looking lively. He's done more than Martinelli has in a really short period of time. Just his ball control's better. He's technically far more assured. You just get the feeling that he's gonna make something happen more often than Gabriel Martinelli can at this moment in time. And yeah, here's Dowman on the right for Arsenal. Immediately faced up by Spence and Son. Overlapping run comes in the end, but Dowman still has it. Skips away from Son. Works it to Zubimendi on the edge of the box. Tries to thread it through the eye of a needle, looking for his good pal Mikel Merino. Arsenal have it again, though, with Odegaard. Dowman on the right for Arsenal. Carries it inside as Max Dowman clips it into the box. Zinchenko keeps it alive at the far post, and then it's hooked away by Bentancur from around about the penalty spot. Here's Zinchenko. Odegaard out to the right. Nice early ball for young Max Dowman again. Interesting that Dowman comes on and Nwaneri doesn't. I mean, Nwaneri is seen as a more central player nowadays. We know that. And obviously Odegaard's still on the pitch. So that probably explains it, I suppose. Zinchenko. Mosquera wearing the number 3 shirt for Arsenal. Ben White on the right flank. Back inside to Odegaard. Arsenal just probing at the moment. Clipped into the penalty area. Zinchenko picks it up on the edge of the box. Out to the left for Mikel Merino. Turns back to Zinchenko. Back into the feet of Merino. First touch. Delivery into the penalty area. Not properly cleared by Jed Spence, but fortunately for him, Heung-min Son was there to take it on and run it away for Tottenham Hotspur, and he's made his way all the way into the Arsenal half and then plays it in towards Matthias Tel. Saliba comes across, closes the door, and then Mosquera can calmly come across and support his new central defensive colleague and just calmly roll it back to the goalkeeper for Arsenal to build again. Here's Zubimendi at the base of the Arsenal midfield, into the feet of Cristhian Mosquera, who's playing in the heart of the Arsenal defence. Dauman again, immediately faced with 2 or 3 Tottenham players every time he receives the ball. Ben White's just going to flick this out of play, though, because Leandro Trossard is down with a problem. Trossard picks himself straight up off the ground once the ball goes out of play. Makes his way over towards the dugout. Not sure exactly what the issue is. Don't know if he's going to be okay to continue. Looks like he's felt something there, Leandro Trossard, which isn't great. Reece Nelson is stripped and ready. I think Reece Nelson's going to come on and replace him. Looks like a muscular problem for Trossard, which isn't good news. Maddison's coming on for Tottenham, as is Archie Gray. Just confirmation of that change. Nelson replacing Leandro Trossard. Pape Matar Sarr will make way for Tottenham, the man who, of course, scored the goal that separates these two sides. He and Bentancur make way. Chris says, great, now we can't sell him, referring to Trossard. I don't think we're going to sell Trossard anyway. I really don't. Saliba's ball out to the left, looking for Nelson. Well defended by Porro. I think it's Porro. Is he still on the pitch? Lost track of the Tottenham subs, to be honest with you. I'm sure you'll forgive me. Here's Dauman on the corner of the box. Yep, it is Porro. He is still on the pitch. Zinchenko into Reece Nelson on that left-hand side. Heavily linked with a move to Fulham at the moment, but still a part of the Arsenal squad. Zinchenko's low ball into the box, poorly cleared. Gyokeres trying to bring it down, tees it up for Zubimendi, gets a second bite at the cherry and then drags his effort wide of the left-hand post. Zinchenko's delivery into the box. Gyokeres was the one that teed up Zubimendi for the initial effort, but he was under a lot of pressure at the time he let fly. It came back to him again. And that time he never really got a hold of the strike. Likes update, anybody? Surely we've got to 1,000 now, surely. If not, let's have a real push for the last sort of 5 minutes of the game. I'll be really disappointed if I've sat here for 2.5 hours or so, rambling on, and we ain't got 1,000 likes. So come on, let's give it a push. Let's give it a real good push between now and the end of the stream. Here come Arsenal again, down the right-hand side with Max Dauman. Dauman looking to go in between Jed Spence and Heung-min Son, who was back supporting him. Gyokeres closes down. And then Dauman just got a toe to the ball ahead of Heung-min Son, but unfortunately concedes the goal kick. He's ready, this kid, isn't he? He's just so ready. So ready to make an impact at this level. It's unbelievable when you consider his age. But do you know what I've been really blown away by? Like, I always knew Max Dauman was like super talented. As I've mentioned to you guys before, as part of my role, I've been lucky enough to see him play in the flesh on a couple of occasions. And I know not many people have had that privilege, but I always wondered how he would make that transition. Like, I wondered if you'd see the Max Dauman that you see at the 18s, where he's just really sort of focused on dribbling, beating people, and it's probably because he finds it easy. But at this level, I wondered if he'd come in and just, you know, either A, go into his shell and not try any of that stuff, or B, be so desperate to showcase what he does at that level that he almost doesn't have enough variety to his game. And what I've seen is you know, just an incredible level of maturity. Someone who, you know, really does believe that he belongs here, but has also kind of just adjusted and adapted his game to make him a better fit for this environment. And yeah, I'm really, really excited by him, man. Really, really excited. Have we made the 1K yet? Some people are saying we have. If we have, thank you all so much. I really, really appreciate it. You made me sitting here for 2 and a bit hours talking through this dreadful game. All worth it. Thank you so much. If you're new as well, make sure you're subscribed. If you prefer to take in our content on Apple or Spotify, you can do so as well. You can become a patron if you wish to support the Chronicles of a Gooner, get access to all our podcasts ad-free, and get access to some exclusive content as well. Lots of people are telling me that we're on 878. Some are saying 1,000. Let me check, because sometimes if you don't refresh your page, you won't get a clean reading on the likes. That's why I hate checking them myself during a stream, because it's bloody annoying. White out to the right for Dauman. Back inside to Mosquera. We're into the 90th minute. Zinchenko. Can Arsenal find a late equaliser? Here's Reiss Nelson. Goes beyond his man and forces an Arsenal corner in the 90th minute. Can Arsenal fashion one last good opportunity? To be fair, from set pieces, we've done nothing in this game. And we almost kind of went through this real purple patch of being like, you know, incredibly effective from set pieces. And that just feels like it's just waned a little bit. Odegaard's corner, nothing really comes of it. Porro smashes it away. There's going to be 6 minutes of added time, though. Encouragement. We're into the added time. That's why the clock stopped running, because I set the limit at 90 minutes. I knew I didn't do something perfect. Last time I set it at 45 minutes and had to reset it for the second half, which was a complete and utter shit show and a shambles, and shows you that I'm not very good at these watch-alongs. But yeah, this time I set it at 90 minutes and now it won't run into stoppage time, so apologies. But if you're not synced up with us by now, well, you should be, because the game's nearly over. So there's not much I can do for you. Mikel Arteta looks pretty frustrated, doesn't he? I don't know what to say other than to just kind of sigh. Zubimendi's header forward. Gyokeres challenges. Loses out, though, to Danso. Zinchenko steps in midfield. Nelson with a nice, tidy pass into Mikel Merino. And Arsenal create some space on the right-hand side. Max Dauman, one-on-one with Jed Spence. Dauman looking to get to the byline, and Spence just got a toe on the ball and turns it behind for another Arsenal corner kick. Max Dauman would have been licking his lips, wouldn't he, when he realised that he was very much 1v1 with Jed Spence. But to be fair to the Tottenham defender, he handled the situation very, very well. Merino involved in a little bit of pushing and shoving with Brennan Johnson. Merino's a beast in the air, mate. What are you even trying? The referee's come over now to have a word. And he's going to give Mikel Merino and Brennan Johnson a yellow card. I was going to complain that he was only giving Mikel Merino one there, because it is very much 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, this. Odegaard's ball in. Mosquera tries to flick it on. He did, up into the air. Wasn't a lot of pace on the ball, and that just allowed Vicario to watch it and come out, using the advantage he has as a goalkeeper and just plucking it out of the air and taking the sting out of the situation for Tottenham. And then sends a ball long up to halfway. Zinchenko wins the header. Just confirmation of those yellow cards for both Brennan Johnson and Mikel Merino, which I think is silly. There was no need for anyone to go into the book there. Just have a word, ref. It's effing pre-season friendly, for God's sake. No harm's done. Dauman's got White on the outside of him. White just tried to get there to the byline as Dauman looked to slip him in, but Dauman just put a little bit too much pace on the ball. He apologises to Ben White. But let me tell you this, Max Dauman, you are a really, really exciting and bright young talent. Nobody is going to have a go at you. You are honestly one of the least of our problems. We've got, look, we'll talk about it. In fact, you know what? We're not going to talk about it post-match because we're going to be doing a podcast later on in the day. And we'll talk about it then. Because if we don't talk about it then, I'll have A, no content. And B, if I talk about it on here, you won't come and listen to the podcast. I understand if you want to listen to the podcast tomorrow or much, much later because you're probably sick and tired of hearing my voice. But yeah, I will be back a little bit later on in the day. Here's Nelson. Zinchenko on the left. Left-footed delivery into the box. Archie Gray sort of half cleared. Pedro Porro helped it on. Arsenal throwing on this near side. Zinchenko takes it short to Zubimendi. Reiss Nelson on the left wing for Arsenal. Nowhere really to go, though. Has to go back to Zinchenko. Then Nelson looks to go beyond Porro, who completely took him out. I mean, I can't believe that Pedro Porro would even dare to question the referee's decision to give Arsenal a free kick there. He's literally just rugby tackled Reiss Nelson down there because he can't stop him via any other means. But it does mean Arsenal have a free kick from the left-hand side. Mikel Arteta looks furious on the sidelines, furious. Graham says in the chat that Nelson looks better than Martinelli. I think Martinelli has looked the worst of all our left-wing options in pre-season so far. And I include Nelson and obviously Trossard in that. I completely agree with you. Odegaard's ball into the box. Bit of a scramble going on in the area. Hooked away by Matthias Tell. It comes to Ben White about halfway into the Tottenham half. Arsenal work it back out to the left. Odegaard now. Was he fouled? He thought he was. By James Maddison. The referee said no, and Tottenham looked to break away with a long diagonal ball out to the left-hand side for Heung-min Son. Early left-footed delivery into the box. Hooked away by William Saliba. Picked up by Max Dauman deep inside his own half, but he's got room to carry it. He's got plenty of room to carry it as he carried it for too long. He manages to win a free kick, but I think Dauman was a bit lucky there. I think he carried the ball for way too long and got away with that in the end. He had to release it earlier. I'm not sure there was a great deal of movement ahead of him, and for that I'll give him some, or I'll cut him some slack, but just held on to the ball a little bit too long there. Here's Zubimendi. Out to the left. Nelson. Back inside to Zubimendi. Facing out towards Arsenal's left-hand side. Tees up Zinchenko. Back inside it goes to William Saliba. One last chance for Arsenal to put it into the box. Ben White tries desperately to keep it alive, but he can't. The ball goes behind for a Tottenham Hotspur goal kick. And there's a bumping of the chests between Vicario and Spence. I mean, it's typical Tottenham, isn't it? Celebrating a pre-season friendly win. But yeah, I think that'll probably be the last action because we've had the 96 minutes. It's Arsenal 0, Tottenham Hotspur 1. And even if this doesn't really tell us too much about the two teams going into the season, because there's still a good few weeks to go. And I always say you shouldn't read into these games too much, but you can take tidbits away from them. This will do Thomas Frank a lot of favours, won't it? Beating Arsenal in one of your first games in charge, whatever the circumstances, will help. For Arteta, this definitely doesn't help. Like, I feel like our performances in pre-season so far have been patchy. You can understand that because fitness levels aren't necessarily where they should be. So I get that. I understand that. But a lot of the same problems that we've seen over the course of last season are on show again. And that will worry people and annoy people. I think people overlook some of the factors contributing to that. But, you know, there will be a bit of discourse after this game. It's impossible to avoid. That's it. That's the full-time whistle. It's finished. Arsenal 0, Tottenham Hotspur 1. Pape Matasar's first half goal. He caught David Raya miles off of his line. We can debate it into the evening with regards to who was at fault predominantly for that goal. We'll discuss all of that and more on the podcast. Looking forward to bringing you that in about an hour or so. It will be out in about an hour's time. So stay patient. We'll be with you very, very soon on the podcast side of things. Probably not going to do that one live. I don't think I've got the energy to remain live for much longer. I'm absolutely shattered, but we'll bring you that very, very soon. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for getting us to the 1,000 likes. Really, really do appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the YouTube channel along the way today. Thank you to everybody who's been with us on X, and for those of you that came over from X to YouTube, be sure to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Patreon if you wish as well. Yeah, really, really appreciate all the love and support for the watch along, and I will see you all very, very soon with more content here on the Chronicles of a Gooner. Thanks for being with us. All the best. Goodbye.